One of the main things I talk about when speaking about independent filmmaking and creating content that actually generates income is where you start with your story, but more importantly, your budget. And a lot of times individuals get into this and they believe that they must have all of this extravagant, unnecessary, over the top accessories. That's what I'll call it. But the truth is, all you really need is a good story. A good story. And I wanted to point out a couple of films, maybe more than a couple, that I've watched that just had stories. They had compelling stories or they had interesting stories, and they didn't have overblown budget spent on ridiculousness. And in most cases, they were just relegated to a single location. One of the movies that I watch and I like referencing is a movie called Buried, and it stars Ryan Reynolds as this individual who is trapped inside of a coffin. He is buried alive. The entire movie takes place inside of this coffin. You should watch this movie. I was so intrigued when I read the summary of what the movie was about, because I just could not imagine how they would make a movie with one man in one location interesting. But I'll tell you this, I watched it and it definitely kept my eyes glued to the screen. Another movie I like to mention is a movie called Locke, L-O-C-K-E. And this movie stars Tom Hardy, who most of you know from his role as Venom. And the interesting thing about this movie is it's kind of one location, but also several locations. I use this movie as an example because it all takes place inside of his car. It opens up with this man leaving work, but then getting inside of his vehicle and driving across town. And the story centers around his conversations that he's having on the phone while driving. But the whole entire movie takes place with him, this main character, only character, well, not only character, but him as the main character inside the car. This was interesting to me because I was like, wow, this is Tom Hardy. This is a single location, and they actually made a movie from this. To be honest, me being an artistic person, a creative person, I probably would have added some other elements that would not have complicated the script that much anyway, but it would have added some more to it. Maybe I would have had him pull over to a gas station and have an encounter there. Maybe I would have had someone else pull up in the car next to him, or maybe I would have had him stop at a red light. But that's just my own thing that I would have done. So aside from that, this movie is another example of where you do not need a whole bunch of things to make a movie. We get caught up in so many different things that complicate a situation that does not need to be complicated. So make sure you go and you check out the movie Locke. And this one is a little bit weird, right? This one is called Sasquatch Sunset. And the reason I like this movie is because, number one, it has zero dialogue. That's right. There's no dialogue. There's no script. And me, again, as a creative person, my mind gets to wondering, like, how do you even write a script for something like this? How do you do table reads for something like this when there are no words? There's no dialogue. And basically the story is about these 4 Bigfoots that are just out living in the world. Living in the wilderness, I should say. And it is very interesting to watch if you like to study film, if you like to study directing, you like to study angles and things like that, and story arcs. This is something that you should watch because there, again, is no dialogue. And it took place maybe, I want to say about 99% in the woods. So you had these people dressed up like Bigfoot, no dialogue, and just out in the woods living. And it was interesting. It got a lot of critical acclaim from the different artistic communities for filmmakers, and it also starred Jesse Eisenberg. So that was another reason why I was like, what? I gotta watch this, because one of my favorite movies of all time is The Social Network, and he played Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network. So check that movie out. And again, look at it from the frame of mind that these are things that you can learn from. These are things that you can utilize, and you can take them and make them like one of your tools or one of your reference points or something that you just learn from. Okay? Now, here's another movie I just recently watched, and it's called Dead of Winter. This one is fairly new. I like this movie because it's basically maybe one or two locations, a cabin in the woods. So you have the cabin, but then you also have the woods. And I like movies that are shot in nature because it's just so much nature, right? And again, this is just another example of where you do not need a whole bunch of characters. You don't need a whole bunch of locations. All you need is a good story. Dead of Winter had a good story about a woman who has been kidnapped and about a woman who's coming to be her savior. And they made this a very, very interesting movie to watch. So make sure you go and check this out, and maybe this can also spark some ideas. Again, Buried, Lock, Dead of Winter, Sasquatch Sunset. And again, thank you for watching my channel. Do me a favor, join my community. The link is below, sixfigurefilmmaking.com, and you can learn a lot more if you're serious about learning about filmmaking and about how to make money from